All right, it's back.
All right, part two.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we're talking about the history of Europe during the time after the disperse of the Moors. Okay. I also want to add that I wish I can recall the king's name at the time, or the bishop, I should say, because remember, during this time, Europe was ruled by the church. The church was in power. And it's funny, too, because when you think of the history, the Dark Ages was the height of the church. So that's quite a coincidence. The height of the church brought on the Dark Ages. That's some funny shit. But anyway, when the Moors were dispersed out of Europe, when the Moors finally fell to the Portuguese and the Spaniards and so on and so forth, they actually banned bathing, if you can believe this, because they said bathing was diabolical and they said it was African, okay? So, and this is in history. This ain't got nothing to do with racism, with mine essentially saying this. This is documented. Bathing, even if you Google it and you type it in, bathing considered diabolical in Europe, type something like that in, and it'll show you the page where the bishop is actually saying that bathing, they destroyed half of the bathhouses, and the bathhouses that they allowed to stay up, they turned them into brothels. They turned them into homosexual brothels and prostitution brothels, okay? Now, I want to get to whatever you wanted to ask earlier, but the point of the matter is, all of these different groups of Europeans, which are nothing but branches of the Nordic and the northern aspects of Europe that came down to the southern aspects of Europe and begin to breed amongst the original indigenous ones, creating the first amalgamations, which are the Greeks, okay, and then later spreading out. And then, of course, if you watch these movies like Braveheart, if you watch these movies like Gladiator, if you watch these movies like Troy, you'll notice that during the scenes of war, the Romans are always fighting these barbaric Neanderthal-type people that are uphill. And most of the time they have red hair or blonde hair, and their weapons are very rudimentary, their weapons are very primitive, and the Romans are all in, you know, silver and plated and what you call it, you know, plated armor, and so on and so forth. So obviously they're showing you that the Romans, the Greeks and so forth were a more civilized version, and then the Nordics, who are usually the Germanics, who are usually all those different people, which the Irish are part of those branches, which is why Irish people have red hair, green eyes. Remember, y'all, when I taught about the two-strand recessive, the two-strand recessive only has two branches technically, and we're talking about the pure two-strand. Now, don't get it twisted. There's a difference between a sub-mulatto, a dom mulatto, and then a pure two-strand. A pure two-strand usually falls under red or blonde hair, blue or green eyes, and pale or pink skin. That is a pure two-strand recessive. All the rest of them, from Spaniards, Portuguese, Armenian, Italian, Sicilian, all of these are what I call sub-mulattoes, because they are the process of generations after the first raping of the indigenous people of that area, and then the constant. Now, we went into this on a video in the past, which I believe I was breaking down the creation of races. I'm trying to remember what the name of the video was. I think it was Melanin Truths and Recessive Lives and Melanin Truths. Now, when you have these Nordic populations coming down into these southern parts of Europe where the indigenous people were, like the Etruscans, who are the original black people of Italy and Sicily, like the Minoans and the Cretans, who are the original black people of what we call now Greece and all of that shit. You had these people come down, rape and pillage, and actually destroy the men, slaughter the men, and then they would rape the women. And those first generations of those amalgamated children amalgamated amongst each other, and therefore you have the birth of the Greeks. The same thing they did in Australia with the Aborigines. And now we're dumb enough to think Australia is some type of white continent or something that white people have, but it's not. Even if you look at a true quote-unquote Australian, they still have very slight so-called Aborigine features. A bulbous nose, sometimes you'll see. You know, now don't get it twisted. These are all still white people. They still possess the recessive genetic and therefore still possess a form of calcified pineal gland and all the things that come with being a recessive. Same way as the Arabs, same way as all this. Just having a drop of melanin does not change that you are highly infected by the recessive genetic. Now, what else can we go into?
We was like about 5-10 minutes ago before the video started. We was out in the street, and we was in a beauty stores, and I realized we went into 2 beauty stores, and each beauty store was ran by an Asian person. So I was like, yo, you notice that all these beauty salons and beauty stores, they ran by Chinese people, and you was like, yeah, that's like their share of the pie.
All right.
Get more into
now,
that.
what you're referring to right now is the racket of each group, race, and culture,
Right.
taking from a percentage of a portion of a pie, which is us.
Right.
Let's just be honest. Now, all of y'all watching this live in different states and different cities around America, and I want you to test what I'm about to say. And I want you to walk around your neighborhood. I want you to go to certain places, and I want you to count, and I want you to coincide what I'm about to tell you. Now, each race in each group has a specific racket that's respected by each group. Let's start with the Asian. The Asian has fake-ass Chinese restaurants, okay?
Yes.
Because they put up Chinese restaurants in your area, even though they might be Cantonese, even though they might be other different Asian subgroups,
Right.
but not Chinese, and they serve you chicken wings and pork fried rice. Is that what they eat in China? No, they don't, okay? That's one racket that they have. You can find a Chinese restaurant on every block in a goddamn black neighborhood or a ghetto. Another racket they have is the nail salons.
Right.
They control the majority of nail salons in black neighborhoods. That's 2 rackets so far. Another racket they have is the laundromats and the cleaners, okay? If you pay attention to your laundromats and your cleaners, majority of them are Chinese operated or Chinese owned. Now I'm noticing now the Mexicans are moving into the laundry business a little bit more.
The Latino.
But that's a whole nother aspect, because if you look at the so-called Mexican, the El Salvadorian, and all these things, they actually possess the Mongoloid gene anyway.
Yeah, they do. Facts.
Okay?
Yeah,
They're very short in stature, they usually have big heads, and they usually have chinky eyes.
Right.
Because they possess the Mongoloid genetic anyway, mixed with the indigenous people of that land that they were in. That's a whole nother subject. Now, so we got fake-ass Chinese restaurants, we got nail salons, we got the laundromats, and we got the dry cleaners. There's one more, beauty supplies.
Beauty salon,
If
yeah.
you look in all beauty supplies, 99% of the time, it is Asian operated or Asian owned, okay?
Right.
Now, we did with the Chinese. The Chinese have 5 portions of your black ass pie, all right? Let's go to the Arab. Now, if we look at the Arabs, what's the word? The Arabs racket, we're looking at corner stores.
Right.
And we're also looking at, now here's the thing that we don't understand. We tend to sometimes confuse the Arab with the East Indian. And these are 2 completely different people.
Yeah.
And you can always tell, because not only does the East Indian practice your Kushite culture, and not only does the East Indian wear and symbolize your Kushite symbols, whether it's the nose ring to the ear chain thing, that's Kushite culture that the women wear, whether it's the so-called saris, the gowns, and all of these. This is Kushite culture. This is Nubian culture. Now, you can also tell the difference because the Arab doesn't allow his women to work. The Arab does not allow his women out the house, and the Arab does not allow his women to work. So when you see women within these stores, you're dealing with East Indians, not Arabs.
Right.
Now let's go back to the rackets. The Arab has the corner store, which he also shares to some extent with the Hispanic. Or the Latino, okay, to some extent, bodega. Now, the Arab has the corner stores, and the Arab also has a nice portion of the phone business.
Oh shit!
If you go into any major phone retail, majority is of Arab control. Okay, they might let 1 or 2 motherfuckers work in there, but its majority is of Arab control. Now, that's only 2 rackets I can think of right now. I think another one would probably be the gas stations, the gas businesses.
I would
What's
say Crown Fried.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Crown
Another
Fried.
racket the Arab has is the fast food business, dealing in the I can't think of a better way to say this, but the ghetto franchise chain. From your New York Fries, your Crown Fries, your Kennedy Fries, basically a franchise that has no commercials, a franchise that has no acknowledgement beyond the ghetto, beyond an area that's majority of melanin dominant black people. So you're absolutely right, brother. So we have the chicken ghetto fast food franchise industry, which the Arab dominates and controls. You ain't never seen no Chinese man in Crown Fry ready to serve you. You ain't never seen nobody else. And they also have the corner store.
Right.
I believe they're also a large majority of the gas stations.
Right.
And what's the other one that we just named? The corner store.
Bodega.
Well, that's the corner store.
Okay, yeah, Bodega.
I said something else with the
Crown Fried.
Phone
Phone.
Yes, the phone business.
Right.
Now that's the Arab. So the Arab has about 4 major rackets that they control within your neighborhood. So we did the Asian, who has 5, the Arab, who has 4. Right. Now let's go to the East Indian and get very specific. Because remember, your East Indian is not your Arab. If you look at them closely, they look very different as well too.
Yeah.
The East Indian is usually a little bit more darker, much more redder tint to their skin. Okay, and they also dress in the symbolism of Kushite culture. If you study the Kushite, you will see the East Indian wardrobe, and you will see the jewelry. The Kushites wore a lot of jewelry, and that's why if you notice, they're East Indian women, they wear the nose ring. The nose ring comes from Kushite culture, comes from Nubian culture.
Right.
They always got a nose ring.
I'll be seeing the Bangladesh girls with that.
This is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, because remember, Indus Kush Valley, which you refer to as India today, was settled by the ancient Kushites.
Okay.
So it's still embedded in their culture. It's still embedded inside of them, whether they want to realize it, acknowledge it, or not. Now, what does the East Indian control in your neighborhood? The East Indian controls the 99-cent store.
Facts.
Have you ever gone to a 99-cent store and noticed the little East Indian motherfucker behind the counter? Whether it's the ladies that are behind the counter controlling the money in the register, and the father or the brother or the husband at the front door checking your bag.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, by the way, let's also bring into acknowledgement the fact that they recognize gender, and they place each other in proper positions for the jobs that are conducive to that gender. The women handle the money. The women stay behind the cash register. The women don't do hard labor. The men does the security. The man stocks the shelves. The man unloads the truck. Okay. Now, that's one racket for the East Indian. What's another racket? Can y'all guess?
Shit.
Small retail.
Small retail.
Now, we live in New York. If we go to Jamaica Avenue right now and we go to all y'all favorite stores, Rainbow, y'all know y'all favorite stores, Rainbow, what's the other one they love to go to? Roxy, and all these tiny, now this is actually similar to what we just talked about with the Arab, with the ghetto franchises like Crown Fried, Kennedy Fried, New York Fried, because when we look at stores like Rainbow and Roxy and all of these different little small franchise chain stores that are usually only found in very low income areas, we're still talking about a form of ghetto franchise, because I've never seen a Rainbow commercial. I've never seen a Roxy commercial, okay? But I damn sure will find it all over the hood. As a matter of fact, we go to Jamaica Avenue, there's like 3 Rainbows back to back, all right? So, you go into Rainbow, what do you see behind the cash register? East Indian women, okay? Who's at the door? Now, sometimes they allow a real African to be at the door, like a real African. But most of the time, it's usually the father, the uncle, or the brother of those East Indian women, okay? So that's 2 rackets so far that we got with the East Indian. Retail and the 99-cent store. Now, let's wrap it all up with the Jews. Because the Jews own the buildings all these motherfuckers working.
Real estate,
okay? The Jew owns the building that the Chinese restaurant is in, and that the Chinese motherfuckers live on top of the Chinese restaurant. The Jew owns the building where the motherfucker has the 99-cent store, okay? So, at the end of the day, what are we saying? Each race and each group not only uses you as a pie in a basket for their own sustenance, their own creation of wealth, and their own monetary system in business, but they also have a great respect for each other's racket. Because I've never seen an Arab try to move in on the 99-cent store for an East Indian. I've never seen a Chinese person try to move in on a bodega. You understand what I'm saying? Why is that? You see what I'm saying? Because each one of them are respecting the portion of the pie that they've chosen to dominate. You see? Why doesn't the East Indian try to open up a nail salon? You see what I'm saying? Why is this so segregated to such an extent, but still respected amongst these groups? And you, of course, are the source of their wealth. You are the source of the sustenance of their family. Without your black ass, none of them got nothing.
They don't got nothing.
They don't got nothing. Who will go into a beauty supply if your black ass ain't around? Who won't go and get no fake ass Chinese food with the goddamn fried chicken wings that you like fried hard with the hot sauce and shit? Who gonna buy that? Nobody gonna buy that.
Nobody.
You see what I'm saying? So we could wrap that up and pay attention. Use your eyes and use observation. When you walk into these businesses, look who's behind the counter. And pay attention to their ethnicity and their religion and their culture. And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, you will see the pattern of what group and what race controls what business within your black neighborhood.